compete with Mima inside of the band. She wants Mima's place in the band specifically, but she can't fill it because she doesn't believe herself to be as talented as Mima is. And so the reveal that even Mima isn't good enough to hack it in the industry would be the real crushing blow to that character, who felt abandoned in their own ambitions by Mima giving up. I feel like we're most of the way to that being what the movie already is, and I can also understand how if Rumi was more obviously similar to Mima, it would have been way more immediately obvious to smart viewers that she was the killer, instead of the unassuming manager, Rumi. I can't even confidently argue from that vantage point that Perfect Blue would be a better movie if it made more sense in this regard, but it would at least make it more accessible to certain audience members. Likewise with Me-Mania, it doesn't add that much to the film or to him for him to be creepy looking, other than adding a sense of tension to the movie about what the weird guy might do. And honestly, it's so on the nose with him that I was more surprised he even turned out to be a bad guy than I was by the idea that he was a red herring. I do think that the film wants us to partially understand that Mima is prejudiced against this guy because of his appearance, but, well, again, that prejudice ends up being justified because he's actually a bad guy. So I think the suggestion of a link between his physical deformity and mental illness is the most unfortunate presentation in this film. The guy who broke into my house was an incredibly normal-looking dude, just as psychopaths typically are, and Me-Mania has clearly always been a guy looking for an excuse to beat people up on a hot girl's behalf. If the movie was rearranged so that it didn't feel so hard on ugly people, would it be a better movie? More perfect? It's pointless to speculate because that movie doesn't and will never exist outside of the realm of fantasy, and illusions can never come to life. We have the movie that we have, and it's as good as it's ever going to get. So it is perfect in the sense that it is what it is, and it will not ever change. But who cares what I think about perfection? How would I even know if I saw it? Who can really know what was missing from a work besides the person with the original vision? How could I ever know the difference between what is accomplished by a person and what is, in their own minds, perfect? In Breadsword's video about Lupin III, The Castle of Cagliostro, they justify their declaration of the film's perfection while also revealing how, for director Miyazaki Hayao and the staff who created it, the memory of making the film is more sour and more about what they had to deal with negatively, which opens up a whole other can of worms, and the modern cultural question of whether a work can even really be considered perfect unless it was also achieved by perfect means and by perfect people. And so now, at long last, it is time. I am done talking about Perfect Blue. This was originally going to be a video in which I compared it extensively to The Wind Rises, but after I wrote about Perfect Blue, I realized they weren't as comparable in the ways that I thought they were as I had first thought, and also that I had way more to say about Perfect Blue than I first thought, so I've made it its own video. Maybe I'll talk about The Wind Rises someday, but I can't make any promises. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Please use my link tree. Please read my magazine. Please check out all the stuff